got some Heat news on a Thursday afternoon. The Heat organization announced it themselves that they have signed Josh Christopher to a two-way contract and waived guard Zyon Pullin. We have talked about the Heat two-way contracts and who deserves them, who doesn't deserve them quite a bit, but we have always said that Josh Christopher should be one of the 3 two-way players, and he officially is at the expense of Zyon Pullin. We'll break it all down on today's show, but this is why you subscribe to the channel, because whether it's news, rumors, we will have you covered. Any Miami Heat news is going to be broken down on the channel. Even a small two-way contract, we're making a full video, so hit that sub button to stay up to date on everything surrounding Miami. All right, let's talk about Jay Christopher now because he absolutely deserves this. He was the former first-round pick in 2021, 24th overall by the Houston Rockets, never really found a home, was waived by the Utah Jazz last season, and then latched on to the Miami Heat's G League team in Sioux Falls at the end of the year. Stayed inside the organization, accepted an invite to play on the Heat Summer League team, and was unbelievable. And he was always someone who flashed elite upside. Like, he was taken in the first round of the draft 3 years ago for a reason. He obviously has some type of traits that scouts believe could blossom into an NBA caliber player. And you saw why he was drafted in the first round this Summer League, averaging 19 points a game, 2 steals, while shooting a ridiculous clip from beyond the arc at 52.5% and 54% from the field. Like, he is someone who flashed athleticism, defense, tough shot making, and three-point shooting to where he actually can be projected as someone who potentially has a role on this team. We've talked about Alondes Williams in the past and how he probably doesn't project as someone who can have a role in an NBA team because he just needs the ball in his hands at all times to be effective because he's not that good of an off-ball shooter and off-ball scorer. He needs the ball to get to the rack, get into his shot, get into a rhythm, and he's not a good off-ball player. But Josh Christopher, on the other hand, working alongside Isaiah Stevens, alongside Alondes Williams, Pelle Larsson, Kel'el Ware. Like, Christopher had the ball in his hands, sure, at some time, but he was more used as an off-ball shooter, off-ball cutter, and that, to me, projects as someone who could actually find a spot in the Heat's rotation because, well, none of these guys that are fighting for a two-way are expected to have the ball in their hands that much when they're on the big league squad. More to talk about with Christopher in just a second, but are you fired up for Josh Christopher to be on the Heat's two-way contracts? Spam those JCs down below if you are. We've talked about how he deserves one alongside Keshad Johnson and Isaiah Stevens, who we'll talk about a little bit more in just a second. But Christopher, an elite athlete, good shot maker, three-point shooter, officially on a two-way deal. There was a flip side, though, of Christopher earning this two-way contract, and that is the Heat waiving Zyon Pullin. And we've often told you as well here at the channel that two-way contracts can be changed up at any moment. You can be waived, like Zyon Pullin just did, and you can be added to a two-way contract at any time. So the Heat use that ability right now by pulling Pullin off, no pun intended, and putting Christopher on. Pullin was a little underwhelming, not going to lie, in his his Summer League debut with the Heat. The Heat gave him a two-way contract relatively quickly after the NBA draft concluded, and I thought there was a chance that the Heat were going to select Pullin with the 44th overall pick. They evidently did not, thank goodness, because he was not that good during Heat Summer League. You saw the numbers on screen, only averaged 5 points a game, but the more concerning part about Pullin, who is advertised as a good three-point shooter, facilitator, and ball handler, is that he had 1.7 assists in the 6 games that he played and 1.2 turnovers. Limited action, only played about 12 minutes a game, but almost having a 1-for-1 assist-to-turnover ratio as a true ball handler and point guard was not ideal. He was efficient when he took his shots, shooting 60% from both from the field, and then shot 60% from the free throw line. Actually didn't miss a 3 in Las Vegas, ironically enough. And I liked his pace and how he got to the elbow and was able to get into his mid-range shot, but the game just looked too fast for him as a decision maker and playmaker, which is why I think the Heat ultimately were fine letting him go off that two-way deal. But I will say this, as underwhelming as he was and how disappointing he was for this Heat team, I still would like to see Zyon Pullin find a spot in this Heat organization somewhere, and specifically a home for the G League team in Sioux Falls. Now, Dan Bisaccia, who is the coach for the Heat Summer League team, is also going to be the Heat G League coach this upcoming season. I'd like to see him work with Zyon Pullin for a full year because there was enough there that made me excited to sign him to a two-way deal, but also have Pat Riley in this front office give him a two-way contract. So there's obviously something they liked initially on Zyon Pullin. He just was disappointing at Heat Summer League, but you give him a chance to potentially acclimate to NBA speed, NBA athletes while playing for the G League in Sioux Falls this year. Maybe his processing speeds up a little bit. We know he can shoot the rock, and if he's able to become a better decision maker, maybe that allows him to potentially have a role in the NBA in the future. Not that superb of an athlete either, which does hurt him, but a good shooter and a hopefully good improved decision maker after a year in the G League could make him an asset for Miami in the future. But what say you? Should the Heat give Zyon Pullin another chance and try to keep him in the system for the G League team? Type Y for yes or type N for no. All right, so after the Josh Christopher signing, this is where the Heat two-way contracts currently stand. Keshad Johnson is our crown jewel, who we know probably should be on a standard deal for the Miami Heat, but the Heat just don't have enough roster space, so they're going to keep Keshad on a two-way. Christopher replaces Zyon Pullin, and then still hanging in there somehow is this man right here, Dru Smith. And I think that's where we got to take the conversation next here to round out today's show, is that we need to get Dru Smith's ass out of here in favor of Isaiah Stevens. Typo on me, not meant to be Zyon Pullin. Shout out to me, Big Dumbo here. But Isaiah Stevens is the person who should be getting that final two-way contract over Dru Smith instead of Dru Smith, because Isaiah Stevens was just terrific for the Heat Summer League team, man. He looked poised. He looked control. Sure, he's a little bit of an undersized guard, but we've seen undersized guards have roles in the NBA. Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry, former Heat basketball player. And Stevens was terrific, man. He really controlled everything. 9 points a game, 8 assists, shooting 60% from the field and 63% from three. Like, Stevens just did everything you could possibly have done to try to earn himself a spot on this Heat two-way contract list. And to me, he's worth taking the risk on. And obviously, if he's on a two-way deal, he'd probably spend most of his time for the Heat's G League team in Sioux Falls. But it's not like that's a bad thing. And if he's on the Heat's two-way system and he performs well for an entire year in the G League, well, then maybe the year after he gets a standard contract when Josh Richardson's money and contract comes off the books, when Thomas Bryant's comes off the books, when spacing on the other guard, Alec Burks. Like, there's a lot of players that are entering their final year of their contract for this team, so there will be roster spots available next year. And maybe that's where Christopher, Keshad Johnson, and Isaiah Stevens could come into play in getting standard deals for Miami next season. I know a lot of Heat fans have been bullish on the long-term future of Miami with those three players I just mentioned. I don't think they're going to have any crazy impact for the team this year, but playing on a two-way contract, both Keshad Johnson, now Josh Christopher, and potentially Isaiah Stevens, they work together in the G League next year. They all ball out, maybe play on the major league team if injuries happen throughout the year and a couple spot starts. And then next season, maybe they all get standard deals when a couple players come off the roster. Like I said, Thomas Bryant, Alec Burks, Josh Richardson, all 1 year left on their deal, could be out of here, and those three could be the replacements. All right, make sure you follow me over on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff. I often say if you want to be up to date on everything Miami, the best place to do that is to find me on Twitter, because I'm talking about them over there on a daily basis. And if news drops, you will see it first there, and then we'll make a video. Well, that's what happened today. I tweeted it out. Josh Christopher signed to a two-way, then we came over and made a video. So go give me a follow if you want to stay up to date on everything surrounding the Miami Heat.